are simple.
Oh yes.
Polytechnic students, colleges of education students are tired of staying at home.
That is why we just choose to bounce on the street to protest, to make the government know that we have graduates on ground, that we are looking for jobs, no job after spending lots of time in school, no job, and it is really very unfortunate.
We must all be convinced that we need a new social order, and we must insist on it and ensure that our current leaders do not frustrate our aspirations as usual. We must demand accountability from our leaders from now on. They must deliver on those issues that are crucial for our well-being and development. Hello viewers, my name is TENN ZIPA, and I welcome you all to the very first episode of the VOY show. This right here is the march to Selma, to liberation, the answers to the questions, and the beginning of a new era for the youth. VOY stands for the voice of the youth, and on this show, we shall be exploring all issues relating to the youth and its development, ranging from the prospective youth, the child, the actual youth, teenagers and young adults, and the role models for the youth. In light of this, the VOY is fashioned out to give the Nigerian and African youth one voice. Over the years, we have seen the youth gradually being pushed aside till our relevance eventually collapse. It is sad that we are in a country where the development of the youth is not top priority, a country whose older generations have passed no values or wealth to its younger generation. The first stanza of the first national anthem clearly states, "And this we count as gain, to hand on to our children a banner without stain." But as youths and children, we ask ourselves, what have we been passed on? Poverty, unemployment, mediocrity? I've in my life been privileged to meet various youth leaders, and I must tell you that most will pass as my parents. Due to the ineffectiveness of these very old youth leaders' presence to affect youth policies positively, I took it as my prerogative to investigate why we were stuck as youth and irrelevant to the decision-making process of the country. And I will later find out that those whom we call our youth leaders are not even youth at all. How can we classify someone above 35 a youth? I will not mention names, but the ruling party and the major opposing party's youth leaders are very well aged, not to mention national student body leaders. Not too long ago, I and a friend, a barrister of mine, Badmus Fatu, were arguing at the bus stop about the comment of the vice president concerning his non-inclusion of the youth in the cabinet. He had expressed his disappointment of the inability of the youth to make the cabinet. Fatu, of course, supported the claim once again, buttressing the vice president's claim to the incompetence of the youth. But I asked my friend Fatu what the basis was for such false claims. Was any youth screened? On what ground were the selections made? Where did they go to look for exceptional youth? Pardon my prejudice, but I went on to tell him that it was not the youth who had brought us to the despicable situation in which we find ourselves today. The youth have not looted billions of dollars that have crippled our economic situation. The youth did not make policies that have deteriorated our system, and worse, the youth were not even involved directly or indirectly in the decision processes that has led us to this terrible state. On the other hand, the ones who have failed us and should be tagged as incompetent are these ones who have been in government long enough and still continue to be in government, clamoring for both change and continuity. They are the incompetent ones, and we the youth are disappointed in them. All of them. Ashamed and unwilling to accept defeat, Fatu brought up the subject of experience. Little did he know that he was about to meet his Waterloo. I hastened to school him how the so-called experience had dilapidated the state of our country. What positive experience had we experienced in our country with all them old politicians? If there was one thing I learned from the past election, it will be that when something, and in this case a government, was not functioning, the people have the power to change it. And to me, change is not complete in this country if we do not replace experience with efficiency and appropriateness. For everyone and absolutely everyone who has ever held a political post, they have failed us. But for time, I would have highlighted a section from my much adored book, A Trust to Earn by Professor Remi Sonaya. The section in which the writer relates the letter of a friend and colleague to the readers. In this letter, her colleague clearly states that the reason for the 25-year gap between Nigeria and the Western world is because of the 25-year age gap between the leaders of both camps. It hadn't bothered me that Fatua totally disregarded the potency of the youth, or that he has said the range of his ideal youth political appointee was 40 years old. What had hurt me the most was that there was more where that came from. More youth brainwashed and lost to the dark side in the name of the Nigerian reality. Somehow, I realized our youth had and were giving up. Not too long ago, a colleague of mine and a young entrepreneur convened the largest youth empowerment, networking, and career symposium I had ever witnessed, the National Career Fair. However, this show was not endorsed or even supported by the Ministry of Youth on both federal and state level. For an event of such magnitude, for an event that had the interest of over 5,000 unemployed, incapacitated, and entrepreneurial youth in attendance, the government was not even aware. It is very strange that the same youths who were praised during the pre-election and election time had suddenly become incompetent. I have over time had the privilege to work with exceptional youth, and I must say such utterances by government officials is regrettably a tarnish on the image of the objective youth. And I ask again, what favorable youth policies have we benefited from? Flying the GRA Ikeja route, a banner caught my attention. A political banner with the inscription, 3 million jobs to be provided. I smiled at myself, not the normal smile of accomplishment, but that of disdain. The question was how. No one bothered to ask them how they would provide 3 million jobs. The past government claimed that they had provided thousands of jobs, but then I asked why my graduate friends are still unemployed. Some have been loaded up, not because of incompetence, but because companies had financial crisis, and the luckiest ones are front desk staffs, earning nothing more than 40,000 naira. The future of the country wasting away, what a shame. It is true that some may claim these jobs were provided and some may claim otherwise. However, one thing remains evident. If the government uses the same media input they use for their propaganda and election campaigns to advertise these jobs, no one will ever have to question them. Not long ago, I heard a youth group in Abuja was taking the current government to court over its exclusion of the youth from its cabinet. Not that I am particular about youth's ministerial appointments, however, I am strongly opinionated that youth should be involved in the decision process directly or indirectly. At this juncture, it is important to know that my prominence does not rest on blame or finger pointing, but on the solution to our self-inflicted wound. In a parallel discourse with Professor Remi Sonaya, the only female presidential aspirant of the just concluded presidential election, I learned a few things which I will educate you on. Having been given the liberty to introduce myself, I went on to narrate my impressive portfolio, or so I thought, to her. However, with a faint smile, she said, "How about politics?" This caught me aback because I was awaiting appraisals and accolades. She went on to school me, saying, "As an entrepreneur, you can work, buy a car and have a good house, but you cannot build roads or electricity to facilitate movement or power to run your machine. These policies affect your output. These policies affect your life. These politicians are your God." Sad but true. Just of recent, someone jokingly said, as a Lagos entrepreneur, you must have a motorcycle just to avoid traffic caused by bad roads. At the end of our discourse, I realized all she was telling me was that the youth should get involved in issues that will affect us positively, which include media, politics, globalization, and so on. It is unavoidable that eventually the child will take care of the father. That time may be now. However, how many youths are knowledgeable? How many are equipped for the battle they will talk? Over the years, I have rattled my brain to find a solution to our predicament, youth irrelevance. And I have come to the conclusion that the problem of the youth is only the lack of information. It is indeed sad because a typical youth disregards serious issues and focuses more on entertainment. Little wonder the house worth of Linda Ikeji is more relevant to the youth than the utmost disregard of our political and social competence. The media is a very powerful tool. However, it has not been exploited fully by the youth, especially the social media. Arguably, the youth dominates the social media. Thus, this project, the VOY, will exploit the social media channels to reorientate, educate, empower, and interact serious issues concerning the development of the youth. It is indeed the time of the youth to rise up and claim their rights and privileges. It is the time for the youth to challenge these obnoxious omissions of favorable youth policies. It is time for the youth to demand for answers, to ask questions, to compare him or herself with the Western youth and see our position in the world. It is time for us to contribute our quota to the development of our great country and world. It is time for us to be recognized as a force to be reckoned with. It is our time. The VOY show is the hope for the random and average youth and will stand as the unified voice. Thus, it will be a tool to express the issues of the everyday youth, ranging from politics to academics, unemployment, sexual relationships, entrepreneurship, and so on. Not only will it give us a voice, it will celebrate the intellectual, creative, and innovational youth. This will allow us to project the full potential of the youth power and create ways to exploit the full capacity. Having said that, the goal still remains to facilitate capacity building, encourage networking and entrepreneurship amongst the youth, regardless of his or her status or gender. It is the hope for the Ijesha boy that he and his antics will be broadcasted to over 10 million people. Or the Fulani boy, it is the hope for him to voice out his issues of cattle rearing to the government. The show will also have role models who will motivate and educate the upcoming and struggling entrepreneur on successful tips on how to grow their business or businesses. This, in line with human capital development, will help to boost our nation's economy consequently. The children's segment will also be prioritized as they are the future youth. A more educational approach will be used on the children as they will be oriented on how to create wealth and other development skills and prepare them for the outside world with an in-depth orientation program. Viewers will be encouraged to join our conversation and speak out for the world to hear. Interviews will be taken on request on a first-come, first-served basis. All states in the Federation and diaspora calls will be attended to. We also encourage youth to send a short documentary, pictures and profiles of any innovation, handwork or project that will be beneficiary to the youth. In return, we will project to our millions of viewers, thus promoting your brand and creating networking between youths. I would like to appreciate everyone who has added value to this project. My immense gratitude goes out to my great team of Timeline AFRIQUE and to the brands who have supported us this far.